was in block 4.
Yeah.
Not 1 as Tomboya where I was.
You know what happened is we got these names
After.
Kibaki, Koinange.
Yeah.
You know, then block 2 was you know, so these names had changed by the time.
Right.
So we struggled sometimes to keep abreast with the colonial names that we never quite got them. So I know in block 1 it was Kibaki and Koinange. And I was in Kibaki and I was the house captain there. I can attest to that fact. So, and do you know who was my housemaster? Mr. Anami, who is now one of the members of parliament.
Who's Mr. Nami?
He's a member of parliament.
From where?
From Shinyalo.
Yeah, Shinyalo.
Oh.
So he's a two of his we were in his house, Abdul Samad and myself. Abdul Samad Nasir, and I'm in the Senate, Abdul Samad in the National Assembly, and our housemaster is a member of the National Assembly from Shinyalo. So we conspired
so
to
you
be
did
there.
all right.
We did all right.
Yeah, but where'd the president come from?
Your school? Is it St. Mary's?
The next one will come from changes. When we change.
Well, I think one thing though, despite all that, I think it's been a long-standing tradition that we beat you in rugby, isn't it?
Yes, but you know, we beat you once in a while, but you guys were powerhouses. You guys, Nairobi School, RVA.
With Barrack Academy. But now that has changed fundamentally.
Speaking of rugby, by the way, we're having the Safari Sevens. I'm not Safari, Kenya Sevens. They're going to be on the bench tomorrow.
A great team.
Koinange, Ambaka, OU. You know the commentators? OU has the OU.
The whole team from Emmanuel.
Will be here. They're going to be here tomorrow.
How are we going to feed them in this bench?
Well, you know, I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to do something. But you know, we celebrate.
Indeed.
Barrack, Afraha, signaling the end of the ICC. Ocampo 6. First there was 6, now there are none. Is it over now? Is it all but over?
You see, it's never over until it is over. And first, I think it is useful to feel good with the Ocampo 6 that they are off the hook. I think attrition is a bad thing. When your neighbor is suffering, is going through agony, it's not a good thing. And you want them to enjoy relief, and I think that there's that relief. But where we have gotten to in the country today, we need to sober up. We shouldn't exactly be celebrating or conversely condemning one another. This is a moment that we need sobriety, to come together, to put our heads together, to ask ourselves the simple question, where did this rain really begin beating us? Because when you look at the kind of celebration that was going on at Afra, because that's a celebration, you cannot call it anything else. I've looked around in my thesaurus, in my dictionary, and racked through my head to try to find a good word that I could use for what happened in Afra. I can't find any. So they were celebrating, and therefore you must ask the question, what were they celebrating? The person who talks about the possibility that you could be seen to be dancing on the graves of those who lost their lives has got to be excused, because they're just a footnote to what you are doing there. You are thumping your chest, you are shouting to the world out there, you are telling them never again, never will we ever come there, and you're behaving as if you're even going to be in power forever. You know, history has taught us that nobody stays in power forever, not even when your name is Nicolae Ceausescu and that you're president of Romania, that you can stay in power forever. It doesn't happen. And we must ask ourselves, what are the things that could happen if somebody else were in power? Would we find ourselves in atrocious activities of the kind that we saw, or even worse? And would we find ourselves on another occasion requiring international good Samaritans to come and bail us out of this kind of miasma?
The person, by the way, you're referring to say his name, Israel Odinga. In fact, somebody just sent me a message here that it is evident that Barrack does not support Raila's bid for presidency. But anyway, so he even desisted from mentioning Raila's name.
What is my one vote? What is my one vote if that person...
But anyway, that's, I think I think to say that they're off the hook is premature. And I think that's the message we need to say it. And I can tell you, for the avoidance of doubt, no one wishes anybody ill. No one wants anyone to be jailed or to suffer certain consequences. I personally have been an advocate in the human rights cadre. But the argument has been we must fight impunity. And to fight impunity, we must give credence to systems that have been put in place either locally or internationally that then ensure that this country serves as certain systems, mechanisms come into place to serve as a deterrence to violence. I can tell you whether we like it or not, everybody who was thinking about anything post 2013 was thinking about the ICC.
What about 17? What about 17?
And 2017, the consequence, if the consequence or the possibility of ICC is not replayed, or even international or internal mechanisms, then nobody will see the fear of not mental violence against another community or your neighbor. So for us, it has nothing to do about ill will. But the court in its own pronouncements talked about witness interference, talked about obstruction of justice. It talked about a litany of things that made the Kenyan cases impossible and impractical to proceed. The Kenyan cases are dormant. They have not been vacated in its entirety. So I think what is happening when the President, Kenyatta, proclaims that we are not going back there, he is actually referring to the three guys, the three Kenyans wanted. That is Bensouda's last final link to the ICC cases. If he can take them to the forum of the ICC, if she can take them to the forum of the ICC, and is able to find through either through the chambers that there was actual manifest witness interference, for that matter obstruction of justice, then Bensouda can bring other applications seeking to bring back these cases to life, and even if necessary extract summons to summon these witnesses, because now it has been manifest that these witnesses withdrew or recanted their evidence on account of intimidation, fraud, or other incentives that were intended to defeat justice.
To that, in fact, this does not just pertain to the cases that relate to Deputy President William Ruto and Joshua Sang, that indeed even the case that was brought up against President Kenyatta itself could find itself back before the ICC.
Tell me something. Your party leader, the court main principal, former Prime Minister, was one of the first to congratulate the Deputy President and Joshua Sang. One of the first to congratulate.
There's no contradiction whatsoever.
When he went to France, he said something else.
No, he was in a course of an interview, and he was asked in a context, "What do you think this means for Kenya?" For Kenya, he said, or for Africa. He says this means that Africa has taken a step back in terms of the fight against impunity. He says there was, through the court's own averments, that they did declare that the court was intimidated, that the court there was witness interference, which means obstruction of justice.
So why that congratulate the Deputy President then?
Because he crossed the first hurdle, and he said very clearly, manifestly, that they congratulate him on account of the fact that now it proves that probably ODM was not part of this litany, this what is it called? This it's called in crimes against humanity, where you had a plan for the extermination, a network exactly, for to cause harm to another community. So, on the overall, also the cases were bogged by their own challenges. So there is nothing that stops us from demonstrating or articulating the challenges that this case has met. We know that people were running up and down the African Union. They were trying to cause the African Union to withdraw en masse from the court systems, the ICC system. So I think one cannot lose sight of the fact that if African leaders are encouraged that they can circumvent international justice, that they can put political pressure to ensure immunity prevails, then we have a very dire situation, because the African leaders, most of them, are in the businesses of plucking toenails from their political opponents and other excesses with excess.
But it looked like he was talking from two sides of his mouth. On one side congratulating the Deputy President, the other side saying
that depends on how you want to look at it. You can congratulate somebody for having the case being vacated, albeit temporarily, but you can also give an opinion about what this means for impunity in Africa.
Moving forward, Barrack, 2017, with what's happened with the ICC, Is it going to be a smooth election in your opinion? And if there is a runoff, what are the chances that violence won't break out?
Yeah, and I think that's where what Senator is saying, and one wants to give it to Raila Odinga. Really, I think he has been read out of context in my view, and that question indeed ought to have been cast a little wider, not just being restricted to Africa, but elsewhere in the world as well. That the ICC has demonstrated that it's not immune to political interference and meddling. By its own admission, it has demonstrated that it does not have the capacity to carry out investigations that can carry the day. And by dint of that admission, I think the global community sits in a precarious place. That in any arrangement where one can work their way to power, regardless of what means they use to access power, and if they can use unorthodox methods to disturb evidence and to distort it, then the ICC will be completely incapacitated. And I think there's a sense in which you can say that without appearing to be wishing that somebody should have been jailed.
Right.
Having said that, there's a very fundamental and worrying lesson that as we move towards next year, people can also start thinking that they must get to power, if they are outside power, through whatever means it takes to get them to power. And once they are there, they will do whatever it takes to stay into power. If they have to destroy evidence, if they have to eliminate people, they will stay there. And those who are in power can also say that we are going to stick to power regardless of what will happen and who we roll over.
Yeah. Gentlemen, let's switch gears real quick. Barrack, let me ask you this question about the senator. Real quick.
He said a good thing.
Yeah.
Finally, he has agreed with me on one
I
issue.
say good things. It's only these court people think that I should always say things.
Finally,
Barrack, let me ask you about senator. Can he beat Joho?
Why not? He can.
Honestly?
Politics is about the art of the possible. If he's spending his time properly in Mombasa, and I think he needs to spend less time on diversionary things, which I will not bother to go into, but he should spend more time in his constituency mobilizing for causes that the people in Mombasa can believe in. And then, of course, he'd also be placing Joho's performance on the weighing scales. There are promises that he made. There are things which he's launching now, and which I think should have been launched about 2-3 years ago. And yes, he can.
Yeah. You want this?
Jeff, I have never found any challenge.
And you should say I've said a good thing again.
When I take up a challenge,
Yeah.
I go to the very end. As he puts it, I always make the impossible possible. And I can tell you, what I will be selling is a political narrative. I think that will be persuasive. It will be a conversation
What is
on
that?
Mombasa.
What is the new
a
narrative?
conversation on Mombasa. Rather, you know, my brother Joho sells 1P, party. I will sell 3 Ps, party, person, and program. Person, in terms of integrity. If he said something, I said something, who would you believe? If I said I'm going to keep this promise, I will keep it. You know? And then we are going to sell programs. Programs that we will set to embark on day one. Not to launch video clips, theatrics.
I saw that Vision 2035.
Yes, a vision of that magnitude needs a strategy in terms of deliverance. It needs a bit of costing. You just don't launch video clips that shows, railroads in Hong Kong.
It was a good vision, and I think Senator Hassan Omar should support that vision.
Yeah.
If he's going to become the governor of Mombasa, when he becomes the governor of Mombasa, he should not kill that vision.
The vision will be rationalized. It will be rationalized. It will be put in a context. We shall draw it from Mombasa. We will allow you to visualize Mombasa as it is. We will tell you where the railroad will pass by. We will tell you where is the flyover going to pass by. We'll just not draw sketches. It will be something that is realistic. We will show you that is where, you see where there is that tree right now, that is where we're going to have this kind of a house. And then we're going to maintain Mombasa aesthetic, because it's not just about having a Dubai. Mombasa is a rich historical town. We're going to blend the architecture in terms of Mombasa. We have the plan for it, but you don't just do it because you want to satisfy a certain expedient appetite. You do these things because you believe they're deliverable, you believe they're real, and you want people out there in terms of believability to know that when you're launching this thing, you've even given them a plan of implementation. I am going to start here, and I'm going to give you the goodwill. I'm not going to forestall business. I'm not going to be. There'll be no corruption, zero tolerance.
So in other words, sort of like Magufuli, less talk, more action.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's going to be done immediately because we already know where Mombasa needs to move, and we know where Mombasa must not be moving towards.
Barrack, closing thoughts, my friend. Closing thoughts. Moving forward. Go on.
Yeah, moving forward, I recognize that we are getting very close to the elections. The clock keeps on ticking away. Time and tide waits for no man. And when you look at the arrangement that we have on the ground, we are continuing to be polarized, especially along ethnic lines. If you look at Afraha the other day, you can say there was this ethnic formation. If you look at Kibera, you can say that there's this ethnic conglomeration, and there's mutual hostility. Now what we need is leadership, and I do hope that among the things they were discussing in Naivasha, where the president was, is how they're going to provide leadership so that we can start cohering as a nation going forward. There's been far too much hostility, and hostility along ethnic lines, which does not help us, particularly as we start getting into the home stretch to 2017 August. And I do hope really that somebody is listening out there, and that they can place the nation above and ahead of everybody and everything, and that we can start holding a conversation, a genuine conversation with ourselves towards being a nation that holds together and pulls in one direction.
Absolutely. Senator, you get the last word.
God wants to govern a nation state called Kenya. We have been talking about diversity. We imbibe these values of diversity. I can assure you, we do not want to dance over graves after an election victory where people have lost lives. We are agitating for good constitutional order. We are agitating for institutional reforms that can guarantee us that future for posterity. So I think in the net overall, if there are any designs about crude ethnic engineering, those are not the designs of the Code Coalition. The Code Coalition will post an agenda, a pragmatic agenda for transformation, and I think we have attempted that. But unfortunately, in the thickest of things, we always have to respond to some of the excesses of the Jubilee regime, the ethnic engineering that you see, the violation of the constitution that you see, enormous corruption. Almost that is one of the biggest deliverable of the Jubilee regime. They've delivered corruption to us. So I think what we need to do now is to decimate all these issues that pervert us as a nation. And then our program is robust, a social justice agenda, an agenda that is inclusive, an agenda that gives dignity to the poor, an agenda that gives, right and protection to the weak. So I think our vision for this country is extraordinarily, noble. And I can tell you, when we have government, we will have everybody in that government. Barrack will come to this bench and attack any
even your leaders,
code president, if he today exercises ethnic exclusion.
We're going to hold you to that.
For him to think that we have taken power so that we can victimize the Kalenjin or to victimize the Kikuyu, they shall be appointed. Everybody shall be appointed.
Victimize means since you think I'm against you.
Everybody shall be appointed by merit, and they will be appointed proportionate to the kinds of, the designs of the Constitution in terms of how the ethnic and other makeups that the Constitution dictates.
One quick question.
Yes, absolutely.
If they say Hassan Tosha, Hassan Omar, not Hassan Joe, Hassan Omar, Tosha,
I think the country will be a much better place. I've spent my life in public service. I have held these positions with utmost, honesty and care. I have never laid my hand on the till of the people.
And that's why I was saying Tinga should say Hassan Omar Hassan Tosha. And you are not agreeing with me.
I
You are not
know there will
supporting
be
me.
that day when the litany of the Code Coalition will say Hassan Tosha. And I think we'll bring that new vision for this country.
Barrack, I think what Hassan is trying to say is mfuata nyuki
Hula asali. Na mchovi asali hachovi mara moja.
You guys know more Kiswahili than myself. You're using it inappropriately. You know, Jeff, when somebody hears your accent,
yes,
then one wouldn't think you know Kiswahili. Then only for some sort of new cake.
Kiswahili
with a British appetite.
Listen, tell your colleagues not to be afraid to come on the bench, okay?
They will
Tell
come.
them, please.
CORD is not afraid of anybody or anything.
Really?
I'm here consciously knowing that CORD is going to be interrogated.
Well, how come your colleagues wouldn't come?
And I hold fort for the coalition. When I'm here, it satisfies the presence of my colleagues. Don't worry about it. Okay. When I speak, CORD speaks. And when other colleagues come, they have come here. The CORD speaks too.
Hassan Omar, Hassan Tosha.
Tosha.
Let's start with Mombasa. Say Tosha for Mombasa and we can
go 2017.
Tomorrow night, as I said, the victorious Safari Kenya Sevens.
Give them a big hug for all of us.
We will, man. A lot of love. Eh?
Yeah,
They've done well.
Yeah.
They've done fantastically well.
Yeah, absolutely.
United us.
Indeed.
All of them from Emmanuelia.
Yes.
And most of them might not have gone through St. Mary's.
Keep tweeting at Barrack M, at Hassan Omar H, at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag Politics 101. Thanks so much for being a part of this audience. Thanks so much for tuning in. Good night. Good luck. God bless us all.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, my brother.
God bless you too.
And you too. Barrack.
Salamia wale vijana kutoka Emmanuelia kesho.
Emmanuelians.
Yes.